Hey, what is up guys? It's been a lot of news lately regarding Xbox Series X and its hardware. It seems like it will feature AMD's upcoming RDNA 2. Yeah, we got some ray tracing and we got something called variable ray shading. So I figured let's look at all the things that we know so far in terms of hardware. So Microsoft reveal of Xbox Series X also revealed some interesting details regarding the hardware specs that hasn't been talked about before. For example, it will feature AMD's next generation RDNA architecture, which is AMD's brand new graphics architecture based on 7nm and Navi. So logically, next generation RDNA would mean RDNA 2 and not the first RDNA, which numerous rumors have been suggesting for a while now, but this news coming out now pretty much confirms this, which is fantastic news as RDNA 2 will be much faster than the first gen RDNA. Both the CPU and the graphics chip will be based on AMD's latest 7nm EUV node. Now in terms of design and how a console looks, a console is designed a bit differently than a traditional gaming PC, and instead of using a motherboard, a CPU and a graphics card, console manufacturers are going with another design approach called SoC or System on Chip, where they are using semi-custom components instead. Now in terms of performance, Microsoft hasn't revealed the full specs of neither the processor or the graphics card yet, but to summarize what we know so far, Xbox Series X will be using a semi-custom SoC that features a CPU based on the Zen 2 microarchitecture, possibly an 8-core Ryzen processor, and a GPU based on RDNA 2 and Navi, powerful enough for 4K at 60 FPS and possibly even 120 FPS. Microsoft has talked about the hardware accelerated ray tracing, and RDNA 2 will be a part of that. Now, according to VCCTF Tech, the RDNA 2 based Navi GPU featured on the Xbox Series X console is said to be the fastest of any Navi GPU shipping today, including the $400 Radeon RX 5700 XT, which is currently AMD's fastest Navi-based graphics card. The said graphics card is also missing hardware accelerated ray tracing, which is a feature that will be added in the second iteration known as RDNA 2. Now remember, Microsoft has already told us about ray tracing, and this is, as we know, a part of the next generation Xbox console. Microsoft hasn't been sharing too much of the hardware specs. Now Mark Cerny, lead architecture at Sony, has however revealed a few interesting details in an interview with Wired. He confirmed that we will see a Zen 2 based processor with 8 CPU cores, an RDNA based GPU, and super fast loading times thanks to next generation SSD. He's obviously talking about PS5, but details were light on solid specs on the machine, such as clock frequencies on the CPU or the amount of GDDR6 memory squeezed into the PCB. Cerny also mentioned ray tracing and advanced audio compatibility, but it hasn't been much details for the teraflop compatibility for the GPU either. So what gives? Well, there are likely a few reasons for this. One could be that neither Sony or Microsoft want to reveal the numbers yet for either competition or hype sake, but also something to have in mind is that raw teraflops are more difficult to measure now that next-gen consoles will be based on a much more efficient graphics architecture. The RDNA architecture, for example, is 25% faster in terms of IPC for game workloads than Vega, which is also a newer architecture than Polaris, and the GCN architecture, which current Xbox and PS4 Pro are based on. And so basically the marketing on pure teraflops is harder because the Xbox One X at 6 teraflops and the PS4 Pro at 4.2 teraflop might make the teraflop number of the next generation console sound less impressive. Let's say the Xbox Series X, for example, gets 12 or 14 teraflops, when in reality the GPU architecture is way more efficient and also packs way faster CPU and other components to boot. And so in terms of teraflop numbers, this is a ballpark of course, so definitely take these numbers with a scoop of salt, but yeah, it should still give you an idea of what to expect here. My thoughts here is that Sony and Microsoft are probably going to go away from the teraflop altogether. They're probably gonna talk more about fidelity and resolution instead. Anyway, I mentioned variable ray shading earlier. What is it really and how important is it? So variable ray shading, or VRS for short, is an IPL level feature that lets the graphics card conserve resources by shading certain areas of the scene at the lower rate than the other without perceptible difference to the viewer. Microsoft actually developed two tiers of VRS for its DirectX 12 API. Tier 1 is currently supported by Nvidia Turing and the Intel Gen 11 architectures, and while Tier 2 is supported by Turing, the current RDNA architecture doesn't support either, but this is most likely going to change with RDNA 2, and the combination of ERS and dynamic render resolution will be critical for next-gen consoles to achieve playability at 4K at possibly 120 FPS, which still sounds kind of ridiculous when you think about it. And speaking of Nvidia, at the recent GTC China 2019 conference, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, the guy with a leather jacket, he showcased that the GeForce RTX GPUs are much faster than the next generation consoles, and this includes both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. So it was during the presentation, right in the middle of the presentation, when Nvidia CEO decided to showcase a slide that compared an older Maxwell-based gaming laptop with a GeForce GTX GPU to a new Turing-based gaming laptop featuring the GeForce RTX graphics card. And a specific point of comparing the two laptops was to showcase the Max-Q technology, which has revolutionized the gaming laptop market, offering discrete GPU levels of performance at a fraction of the power budget, delivering higher battery times and portability that previously wasn't possible on older gaming laptops. This specific slide compared a Lenovo Y900 gaming laptop with the GeForce 980M to a newer Lenovo Y740 gaming laptop that is equipped with the GeForce RTX 2080 Max-Q graphics chip. Now in this slide, aside from just listing down the comparing the dimensions and weight of the two laptops, Nvidia stated that the GeForce RTX 2080 Max-Q powered gaming laptops is faster than next-gen consoles, as you can see. Now this is a kind of an odd way of flexing. In my opinion, it almost seems like they are jealous for not being a part of next-gen. I don't know, guys. Anyway, in terms of performance, the Max-Q based 2080 is about as fast as a regular RTX 2070, and if next-gen consoles turn out to be almost as powerful as the RTX 2070, achieving 4K with frame rates of 60 FPS with added VRS definitely seem achievable. Will certain games be able to go as high as 120 FPS? I don't know, it's hard to say, and I'm definitely not the right guy to answer. I'm just a random nerd that doesn't know jack shit about gaming development. Anyway guys, there is a great deal of information down in the video description in case you want to learn about next gen and all the juicy stuff around it. Anyway guys, I'm very curious to know what you think about this. I'm obviously going to keep you guys informed on next gen all the way up to launch. Once I get my hands on the next gen Xbox, I'm going to do teardowns and I'm gonna do lots of other interesting things, so you definitely want to stick around for that. And Sony PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X will launch in holiday in season 2020. But yeah, until next time guys, have an awesome day.